conference several months ago, we actually had there a retired vicar, the Church of England vicar, who actually said it had caused such a massive, great impact in the Church of England, organisation and the like, obviously all caused by the totally mishandled manner of the staff at St Paul's Cathedral. We arrived on a day when most of you, when it was very busy there, when they just locked the cathedral up, although they made very good provision, fire exits, everything else. There was absolutely no reason why they stopped it. And the most stupid thing is, they put no notices up on any doors saying where anybody goes for any pastor or other things. And that was all very noticeable. But the Church of England have had so much discussion on the issues that you are raising that that's going to have a long-term effect.
Okay, Tim is now back from his organisational duties.
Can I just suggest whether we make this an open discussion rather than just sort of asking you questions? Because I think history is a strange thing. I mean, analysis of the Occupy movement and the other direct action movements that we've had over the last few years is a long time in the making, and we'll see how it was. We all know that Occupy was those of us who had any tangential involvement in it, was an important, significant thing. But I think it has to be seen in the context of the direct action movements over the last few years, particularly climate camp and the climate change action movements, was going back from where they come from, including festivals actually. The climate camp, the organisational elements of climate camp owe an awful lot to small informal festivals, because the two things kind of go together. If you can organise a festival, you can organise a camp. So people I know who were involved in the resources of climate camp, they were all there at Glastonbury in the early days today, or the big green gathering or whatever. It's got the same people. And one of the interesting things about Occupy was that the people who were involved in it, I mean, I went down and I got involved in the Portsmouth Occupy group, which was a very working class Occupy group, but it was people who hadn't been involved in politics before. And some of the ideas that they were coming forward with, like the General Assemblies, like consensus decision making and all that sort of stuff, was very new to us. And it challenged us. It even challenged the people. We thought that with direct action we developed things like affinity groups and all that kind of thing, and the kind of support mechanisms that we developed in direct action, and the legal framework and the legal resistance we'd done, some of which Occupy used. But a lot of it they reinvented entirely. And I think that was really dramatic and interesting. And yeah, you get shit things out of that, like the freedom of the land and stuff. Incidentally, I've had the same experience, and it isn't very pleasant. I found it quite challenging. Even they have actually sort of, I've been threatened with violence by people like that as well. I'm a nice guy. I just found it really difficult. But these are people who are disturbed, right? So that one of the problems about Occupy inclusiveness was that it did attract all sorts of people. And I think one of the things I admired Occupy in St Paul's with more than almost anything else was the way in which they went to the nth degree to include those people, the homeless, the damaged, the drug addicts, the alcoholics, all those people who came along. Whenever you went there was somebody trying to help somebody, and there was a tremendous sense of compassion and love and inclusion. And I think we lose that at our peril. That's one of the things we have to take on and develop and encourage. Thank you.
Okay, the gentleman in the blue shirt at the back.
Sorry, Duncan, I take what you're saying about the
I'm a little deaf.
Sorry.
I wasn't shouting at you, I was trying to hear myself.
You talk about Occupy not working, what then?
Yeah, okay, so the question is if Occupy is not working, what then? We've got about 8 minutes left, so I'm going to allow the speakers about 2 minutes back each. Does anyone else want to?
Another suggestion about something about what could work out. Just saying it doesn't work doesn't give us another solution.
Yeah, just go around the room, I would suggest, rather than speakers. We've heard enough of those projects.
Can I come down now, please?
Should we come and sit on the ground?
the thing I'm concerned about is will people still be able to hear if I'm concerned that people think that they'll still be hearing where maybe people who.
I mean, can I just respond very quickly to that? I mean, Occupy still has infinite potential. If someone can come up with another kind of vessel to be that place for us to really try and organise to challenge the system as a whole and come up with a model of doing it, then brilliant. But the reality is Occupy, by definition, is reinventing itself at the moment. It doesn't have the camps, as Duncan's pointed out, and we said in court, it was defined by the camps, but it is still it's a broad network of people, and it does have infinite potential. And I would beg everybody in this room to get involved in it in some way, because, you know, like I said before, if 10% of the people who'd actually agreed with this thought, I'm going to really try and, you know, spend, reasonably speaking, spend as much time contributing to this movement as possible, rather than just saying, oh, this is something interesting, you know, that's other people's thing, then it would be a different thing already. And yes, the process was wonderful, you know, like it wasn't good for some things, but it was brilliant for getting people to listen to each other and have that sense of kind of reinvented democracy, because democracy is what we've lost, let's face it, you know. As soon as we say, you know, it's up to the market, that means we're not believing in that anymore. And the last thing is we did an Occupy Interfaith pilgrimage for 2 weeks from London to Canterbury, and that was amazing. I mean, all of that, just that kind of thing just would not have happened without Occupy. Going to these sort of Church of England churches between London and Canterbury, kind of communities activists would never normally go into. And it was really amazing. We had all sorts of wonderful links with people and really inspired a lot of people to get involved with us as well. So it is going sideways. Don't think that just because the media isn't reporting big camps, then it's not happening.
Okay, the reality is we're just about out of time. I do think we should...
I won't speak again.
All right, there's two hands from the floor, which I'm going to allow very brief interventions, and then I'm going to allow the other two speakers space very briefly. Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I take your point that Occupy had a lot to do with Occupy space. But in terms of being small, I mean, groups, organisations, movements do wax and wane, and that happens, and they do get small. That happens, but if it does happen, if you have something to say that's significant, then, you know, and you're saying it, there's not somebody else saying it, you know, in a better way at the same time, then that is something that, you know, should keep you going. But that's really it. You know.
Right.
What I could see from what Duncan was saying is about the physical space. The physical Occupy was really, really important. I think if you're not somebody who uses the internet, and there are still people who don't, but also people like those of us who are involved in loads of campaigning and receive masses of emails, then that isn't a way you want to communicate either. So for me to be able to, I was able to, one, be able to go down and support Occupy. I used to go and collect up all different food from places and go and take it down there, or in other ways, but also I used to use it as a meeting point. We started instead having transition meetings, all different meetings. We say, let's go and meet there and have our meetings. So what I'd say for what next for the future, different groups, different collectives, different direct actions, the Green Party, whatever. I think we do need visible spaces, and they could be even festival gathering spaces, but it would have to be all year round, like an open, free access space where people can walk into, where there's a visible online moving notice board that they can add to, post questions, blah, 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 gather.
George's Hill, for example.
All right, we're basically nearly out of time. We wish people were going to need trains and things. So, Duncan, if you'd like to come particularly on the question of what next, if not Occupy, and then I'll allow Mel the final word.
I'm just going to use my voice. Look, it's bad enough, isn't it? You know, I'm going to be glib. After I pulled out of Occupy, I mean, the trigger for me pulling out was the day before we started giving evidence in the case that I had worked so hard for. When I knew that, I mean, I don't think any of us ever thought we were going to win that case. But I thought that we ruined our chances of having an arguable case. And although I would have been preferred as actually not to defend the land legally and actually say, no, actually you're going to arrest us, and no, we're not going to agree to bail conditions, and no, we will do all this stuff, and yes, that's a big problem for you, isn't it, because there's several thousand of us, and oh look, tomorrow there's another several thousand, and so on. I think that would have been a better strategy. But since we decided together that we were going to defend a camp, since I had some skill in how to set that up, and went about doing it, I was very desperate to see that the camp made a decision such that we actually had a viable defence. And then when we didn't, I pulled out. So I'm sorry, the short answer is I went back to being a Green Party activist. You know, can I just...
That was my question.
Can you address where next? So you're
What's the
My
alternative?
question was, what's the alternative?
Well, I think a political party. Actually, I'm sorry. I do not. I think a mass movement needs people on the ground making it mass. And the point you make, my friend, is very, very true. That there have been some wonderfully influential movements that had a peak and then rose and then came back. But I don't see Occupy coming back. I just don't. What was the?
I think there was a question. There wasn't a question.
Well.
Okay, all right. I'm going to let. We were basically.